Good evening, everyone. Welcome to a special edition of Carollo's Corner on It's All About Sports.com. It's all about scores.com. I have with me the three-time defending sectional champion, head coach of the Mainland Mustangs, Chuck Smith. Chuck, say hello to everyone.
Hey, how you doing?
All right. We're going to be doing tonight is something a little different, a little history of the Ocean City Mainland rivalry. We will not be previewing this game. You already have a show for that. You guys do a great job. I'm not going to step on that. Chuck, when would you say this rivalry really became a rivalry? Tell us a little bit of history from the beginning, at least from what you remember.
Yeah, I just know one time the city of we're comprised of Linwood, Northfield, and Summers Point. And back in the day, Summers Point kids before Mainland was a high school went to Ocean City, and then in '61 Mainland opened up, so those kids stayed at Mainland, a brand new high school, instead of going to Ocean City. A lot of connections there. And then we played I think intermittently through the '60s and '70s. I know we didn't play them my first couple of years at Mainland when I was a student. Then in '83 we played them again for a couple of years. Then we were flip flopping in the Cape Atlantic League back and forth through the '80s into the early '90s. When they all of a sudden moved up to the big division, we went down, to the other division. And then it kind of like we started playing them in the early mid '90s, and then it really started to take off because both programs were at a very high level also.
Which is what I'm going to get into. For me, this rivalry, I always refer to this as the greatest rivalry, high school football rivalry in South Jersey, my personal favorite. Uh, for me, I think that I'd like to say this began in '95. You remember, okay, you guys came into that year, just kind of rebuilding, and Ocean City was already, they already started. I believe they had a sectional championship appearance one of those couple years beforehand. And I remember reading the little thing the Atlantic City Press they came out with every week. Coach Coffey had mentioned, I think we can be competitive this year. This was in '95. You guys were much more than competitive. 11-1, beat the highly talented Woodrow Wilson team for the championship. That season opened with a 38-21 win over, of all teams, Ocean City, who was highly favored at the time. If you want to get into any memories of that game in particular.
Yeah, I think we had a few guys injured at the beginning of that season. Both teams, Ocean City, I think, was ranked either third in South Jersey or third in the state at the time. I believe we had played a game before that against Pleasantville or something like that. And then we came in that game, we were a huge underdog.
Remember
And
that?
we got off, they scored the first two touchdowns of the game. And actually, they scored a third touchdown, got called back by a penalty,
Oh,
which
wow.
was gigantic. And then we went on a roll all of a sudden. John Stone, who played at Wake Forest, played for the Raiders and the Colts, had a couple touchdowns. Dave Klemick caught a ball like a Randy Moss type catch over top of somebody and pulled it
Wow.
his head. Our defense did a great job slowing down Sinclair, who was the premier running back of all South Jersey, if not the entire state, those years during his high school career. And we pulled off a huge victory. And I think in that victory, it kind of gave us a huge shot of confidence that we could do something, and it kind of got us going, the momentum for the rest of the year, really.
Yeah, well, I remember that first game I was at that year was your first game under the lights against Ocean City. I mean, excuse me, against Holy Spirit. I immediately got hooked on the atmosphere. Said I got to come back to this place again someday. I've
Yeah,
been.
it was a
Yeah.
crazy year because that we upset Ocean City. We later on in the season, I think we were 6-0, 7-0 at the time, and that was the year of the lights, the first year of the lights, the first play underneath the lights, our first offensive play under the lights. You talk about a year where all kinds of weird, good things happened for Mainland. We ran 929 buck sweep to Tony DeSal, and he went 70 yards for a touchdown on the first play under the lights against Absegami. And then a couple weeks later, we played against Holy Spirit, and we hadn't beaten them in
30
20
years.
something years, 30 years, something like that, whatever it was. We didn't play all the time,
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
but it was a period of years that, it had been since Mainland had beaten Holy Spirit. And I don't think they had a great record overall, but it was Holy Spirit. And there were several years where Mainland would come into that, with a great record, and Holy Spirit not so much, and Holy Spirit would win. And it was like a jinx. It was like the biggest jinx going around.
Remember that.
And it took us, I think, into overtime
Yeah. Yeah.
that game, and we won. Brad Eisler picked off a pass in the end zone to seal the victory as we got that. And that kind of like, I mean, I still can remember the mayhem on the field after that game and
Place
things
was
like
crazy.
that. Yeah, it was crazy. And it was just another, really great memory of that season.
Right. So getting back to Ocean City later that year, you beat Brick Township, who was also, I believe, favored.
Yep.
Um, Now, this I wasn't at the opening day game, but I made sure I was attending this sectional semifinal in Ocean City. I remember the day well. It was a frigid, cold
Hmm.
November day, perfect for football. It was about the perfect atmosphere. And this was my first experience with this rivalry, and you could just feel it within minutes. The crowd, you can. I don't like to use the word hate because they say we hate each other, but you can. Some people in the stands have a great way of over dramatizing it and putting how intense a rivalry is. Easy to get sucked into the atmosphere. You guys won 21-16 en route to the championship game. And I knew at that point, wow, this is something special. First one I'd ever been to, but I knew this rivalry was something special. What are your memories of that day?
Yeah, it was the playoffs that year. Back then only four teams made the sectional playoffs.
Right. There was six
And
that
we
year.
were we were they had expanded to six that year because we were undefeated. And we didn't have enough power points to be in the top four. And there was a rule with the NJSAA to expand the playoffs if you were undefeated. So we got in because they had expanded playoffs. And we played Brick Township, pulled an upset against Warren Wolf, who was the winningest coach in New Jersey history at the time. At our place, I think it was 17-14. And then we went over for a rematch with Ocean City. And I think there was a lot of people that thought we had no shot again against them playing over there. We got lucky the first time. We heard it all.
Yeah.
I remember before the game, they had a helicopter flying over the field with their mascot inside it, taunting us, pointing
No.
out the side door of it. The place was mobbed. In fact, I have a picture hanging in my office from that game, and it looks like it's like five deep around the fence.
Was.
And there were people in the balconies of the houses right there on Fifth Street looking over the field. And we came to play, and the kids came in, and we had a great game plan defensively. We scored a couple touchdowns early on them with John Stone, and Dave Clement caught a big pass, and we pulled the big upset again. To put us into our first sectional championship game since 1980.
Yeah, it was an awesome day. Like I said, it was just everything. It was a perfect storm. Everything came together. Moving ahead, 1996. And this is what really made this rivalry special. You can remember this. Not only were the two schools right near each other, two of the best in the area, you were two of the best in South Jersey for a half of a decade, maybe even parts of the state. And it was later in the year. It was a 1996. It was a warm, windy night, if you recall, back
Yeah.
in November. It was a final, and you want to talk about it was an odd game. It was different. You lost the game 6-5. What are your memories of that night?
Yeah, it was a defensive battle. If you like defensive football, that's what it was. It was a heavyweight bout between two really good football teams. Both of us had, I think, almost everybody back from the year before.
Yeah.
So we had a returning lineups, much anticipated game. I know Ocean City went on to win Group 4 that year, and we won Group 3. And Hamilton, I think, won Group 2,
Yeah, it
and
was
we were
awesome.
all 1, 2, 3 in the final polls.
Remember that well.
And we lost. I remember they had the ball first, and my defensive back coach Teddy Gogol, who coaches with me now,
Yeah.
was a safety on that team, and he intercepted a slant pass from them, and we had it like down to the 10-yard line, but we couldn't score a touchdown. And Jason Feinberg, who was just in this past week, kicked a field goal, and they played a great defensive game. I remember they took a safety at the end of the game to run the clock out, and that's what made it 6-5. It was really 6-3. And we did a great job defending against Kevin Sinclair that game. But it was a highly anticipated game because of what happened the year before,
Yeah.
and the hype of both teams being back. And I think there's, like we were saying before, I think this game has always been a rivalry just because there's so many people that know each other from across the bay. The kids work over there in the summertime. You get to know the kids because you're working with them in the summer. They play sports together and so forth. But I think in the mid 90s, 95, 96 through the late 90s, I think it kind of was like adding gas to a rivalry because it really took it to a whole nother level.
It was so
Everybody looked forward to that game no matter what. And most of the time, there were huge playoff implications, if not championship game status that was on hand during those contests.
yeah. I remember the hype for these games. I remember prior to the 96 game, Ocean City hosted Holy Spirit. It was on a Saturday. They handled the Spirit pretty easy. I bumped into somebody there and said, "Yeah, but this game's kind of like an appetizer." I said, "Next Friday night's the big game, Ocean City Mainland." I'll never forget what this guy said. He goes, "Oh, that's going to be a bloodbath." Just the
Yeah,
way
it was
I
too.
hyped it up was just, and I guess the only down part of that, there was no rematch in '96. Like you mentioned earlier, you both were in separate
Yeah.
groups. And I always wonder what could have happened in a rematch. That would have been priceless.
Oh yeah. Well, in the following year, '97, we played each other twice.
Yes,
We
skip.
played each other in the regular season. We beat them, and that clinched the conference for us. And then we
Actually,
ended up playing
97.
each other in the mud.
Yeah,
The
97,
playoff
you
game.
played them there. And you guys were, I was going to get to this. Preseason number one, you've been number one midway through the season. It was a bad start. They jumped off to a 24 nothing lead on you. You remember that? This was in
Nah, I don't
97.
remember that at all.
Yeah, it was just there. I think you guys fumbled it 3 or 4 times. It was just it got off to a bad start. So they actually, I believe they won 24-6 that day. It was in Ocean City.
I don't remember. But
Yeah.
I know we played them again in the playoffs, and we wound up
Yes.
beating them in a mud. It was a mud
Nine,
bath.
9-7. I remember that.
Teddy Gogol, our defensive back coach, had 3 interceptions in that game.
Right.
And
And it was
that game wound up. I think that was the second round of the playoffs, I believe, and
uh
put us maybe into the championship game against Tom's River
Tom's
South.
River South. Yeah, it was the semifinal. You guys won 9-7, I believe.
Yeah,
It was
it was another big defensive game, and
yeah. Yeah.
it was a muddy field. Super, I mean, unbelievable. The field playing conditions were terrible. It was just a matter of getting a good field position to do something. I think their only touchdown was a kickoff return against us.
Yeah, I got great memories of that when you guys defeated Tom's River South a week later. And moving ahead, 1998, I believe you guys also started out preseason number one. 32-27 loss to Ocean City that year. What do you remember from the '98 game?
98, we were kind of not as good defensively. We had some talent, with our quarterback, Mike Ranieri in there and so forth. Some skill guys, some kids that were left over from the '97 team and all. But we just weren't there defensively. And near the end of the season that year, we took some injuries and all. And we wound up, I think we lost to, I
Tom's
think we
River
lost
South.
to EHT maybe in the, or Tom's River South in the second round of the playoffs. Yeah, up there, we lost a high scoring game again. It was
Yeah,
one of those years where our defense just had trouble getting people off the field. We could score points, but that it was just one of those
I
things.
remember that Tom's River South game. Again, it was one of the better games that year from a neutral fan standpoint. Uh, again, another perfect day for football. It's freezing cold atmosphere. It was mobbed in the bleachers. How I got a
Oh, yeah.
spot getting there late, I don't know. But moving ahead to 1999, uh, not a year I like to talk about too much.
Yeah.
You guys come in again, preseason number one team. Well, on a nice warm day in Ocean City, you beat them 17-14. I remember my thoughts of that game were, okay, they won. This is a rivalry. It's always going to be close. I felt a little nervous, but as the year went on, you guys were dominant, beat everybody. You had to beat. And then came the championship game in Rutgers. As we all know, dropped the heartbreaker, 21-18. What are your memories of this? This was to me. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
that was a tough one because the kids were all, we were undefeated at the time going into that game. I think Ocean City was 7-4 coming into that game and had lost on Thanksgiving to Pleasantville.
Right.
And, I think we were a heavy favorite going into that game. And we moved the ball up and down the field. We had so many, it was the most penalties I've ever seen a mainland team have ever. I think we had 400 some yards of offense in that game, but we only came away with 18 points. And it was a heartbreaking. I mean, Ocean City, hats off to them. They threw passes in spots that only their kid could catch, and the kid caught them. They made the plays when they had to. I think they played fearless because they were the big underdog. I don't think anybody expected them to win. And maybe we played a little bit tight in that game. I don't know, but it was a heartbreaker because it was a good group of kids back from the year before. A lot of great players, and it's just tough to see a team go that far and
Yep.
then let alone lose the championship game, but then again lose to your arch rival.
Yes, I remember. Rumor has it you guys took different routes home that day. One of you took the Parkway, one of you took the
I have
Turnpike.
no idea. I
Yeah,
have no
just a
idea.
rumor I heard throughout the years. Had to, things, rumors develop and everything. Chuck, moving on to 2000. I remember you guys it was a rebuilding year. A lot of kids were going. Ocean City returned a lot, and I believe they made the championship that year, falling to Delsey. You upset them week 8, I believe. I was there. It was a great night. The mood was really good leaving there. A little bit of panic set in, knowing that about a week later you had to play them not only again but 2 weeks in a row. Do you remember any of this in 2000?
Yeah, I kind of remember beating them at our place. Our tight end Tom Core had a nice game, caught a couple touchdown passes. That was my first year as an offensive coordinator. And then when we played them a couple weeks later, or whatever it was, again in the playoffs, they came up with a great defensive game plan against us. We had a hard time moving the ball. I mean, they won first down almost every series against us. We were behind the sticks the whole time, and they wound up, having an easy win against us in that game.
Yeah, moving forward, I'm going to say for maybe almost a couple decades, the rivalry kind of simmered down a bit, and I think not the actual rivalry itself, but the two of you weren't in the top five every year. I know you guys had 02, 03, 07, 08. You had great years, but things changed. What are your memories of like just the coming years after? Anything
Well,
between?
for Mainland and Ocean City, I think it's always a huge game. It's like the big game. Like back in the old days, Thanksgiving was the Super Bowl.
Right.
I think for like us, back when I was a kid, Holy Spirit was the big rival. And that kind of went to the wayside. And the only people that remember Holy Spirit being a rival for Mainland are people like my age and older.
Right.
And for everybody else, it's Ocean City. Ocean City is the end all be all in every single sport at both schools. I mean, you go to a basketball game, a field hockey game, football game, whatever it is, it's do or die, on both sides.
Yeah.
Which is awesome because it builds a great atmosphere no matter what. You could throw records out the window. I've been on both sides of it. I've been on the side of being the big underdog and pulling the win out, and I've been on the side of being the huge favorite and getting upset by them, because I think when you have a rivalry that is like this, the kids play at just a whole different level, and I think that's one of the things like our job as coaches is to make sure you prepare those kids, having gone through it where maybe we looked past them a couple times in the past and thought we were much better, on paper than they were. And they came out and won the game. I look at 2022, just a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
We won the sectional. I think we were a better team than them, but they came out and played and beat us by 1 or 2 points that game.
21,
And,
20, something like that.
it's just one of those things that, it's what makes high school sports great, and, I have a lot of respect for all the coaches over there in Ocean City. Many of them I've been friends with for numerous years. We just really don't like each other during that week,
Yeah.
but we really have a lot of respect for each other. And like even John Bruno, the basketball coach, has been there for forever. One of my favorite things is go to the Mainland Ocean City basketball game at Mainland and do security and stand right next to John Bruno on the bench and talk with him during the dead parts of the game or before the game or after the game, because I've known him because him and his kids grew up with my kids in Summers Point. And so you have a lot of those connections, like Kevin Smith, the old head coach at Ocean City. Him and I went to high school together and played football at Mainland. So there's a lot of connections between the two schools, which just adds to the excitement and the atmosphere of the game.
And like I said, you can feel that just being there. They might be able to. It's tough to put into words, but if you're there, I'm there, and you see this. Again for the next several years, I miss a lot of these games. I met you guys maybe 6 or 7 years ago. I remember the 2019 season being another interesting one. Huge crowd for this game. You won the battle for the bridge. I think it was the first time I'd ever seen the bridge trophy. It was an awesome, thrilling night. You remember, the atmosphere was great. A little bit of panic set in though as the week went by, knowing that okay, it's playoff time. I was talking to a mutual friend of ours, and he was saying, "Yeah, we might get them again next week," which is never a good situation. The game was on a Saturday afternoon. Another great game. I believe those two games within 2 weeks were instant classics. What do you remember a couple of years ago? The 19 game.
The first one was at our place at night, and we really put the throttle to them. Physically, our defense played an outstanding football game. And it was funny. The next day, Saturday, I was sitting in the football office, and Kevin Smith called me and goes, "Hey, man, I think we're going to play each other again next week." And I'm like, "You got to be kidding me, man!" I don't mind playing again, but I want a week in between.
Yeah, I know.
Breathe again. And we wound up playing them again, and we had to move it to a Saturday because we had a bad incident that happened at Mainland after the game the week before, so they had to move it to a Saturday afternoon game. And Ocean City came to play. They came out with a whole different defense against us, take away some of the things we did the week before. It was a tightly contested game. It came right down to the very end where we hit a hook and ladder and drove down the field, and we were going in for a chance to have a game-tying score, go-ahead score.
Jake
I
Cook.
was probably going to go for two, and we ran the ball. We had Jake Cook run down the sideline on the hook and ladder, and then we had another play, and unfortunately, we fumbled the ball, and they recovered it.
I forgot about the fumble. I remember Jake ran like 80, 90 yards downfield. I
Yeah,
forgot about the
yeah,
fumble. And finally, you had last year. It was another tight game. Again, you were a heavy favorite. You did win 14-0, but I believe it was 0-0 at halftime. Just shows, yeah, like you said, throw the record books away. This anybody could
yeah.
win this, and it just proved that again less than a year ago.
Yeah, and I believe the same will be held this Friday. We play each other. Both teams are right around the same record, 2-3, 3-2.
Right.
It's a huge game for playoffs. But I think you just throw it out because then the kids just play at a whole different level when this game comes up. It's just a lot of fun to coach, a lot of fun to watch. It's a gut wrenching week to get ready for.
I'm
And
sure.
and we all know like whoever wins this game, gets to lead the cheerleading section during the basketball games, because all they
Oh,
do is chirp about what happened during the
oh
football game.
yeah, oh yeah. I've heard
So
some of
it's
the
it's
chants.
always about that.
Yeah. And the
So
don't
you get
forget
bragging rights for a year. That's what
yeah,
it is.
the trophy, the bridge is lit up, and the school's color. Lots at stake here Friday.
Yep.
Before we go, give me your favorite and least favorite memory of this rivalry since whenever. Go with any year. I'll give you mine. But
Yeah, I think my favorite memory is going back to '95. Both of those games,
right.
coming into the first one because we were kind of like, I thought we thought we were going to be good, but we weren't sure how good we really were going to be. And then to do it again in the semifinal game with a stamp there, that really is a huge memory for us because that really got the program going
Yeah.
again for several years, and it's something that's kind of fed us even to this day with the tradition. And my least one is, of course, '99.
I was
I
gonna say
remember I was a guy who exchanged film back then, and I remember calling Mike Willscroft, who was a defensive coach for those guys, a line coach for them, and just saying congratulating him. But I didn't go to school on that Monday. I just spent a day in the
oh,
darkness, basically, and quiet because I was just so
yeah.
depressed about losing. Because I felt so bad, not for myself. It was the kids. You just
Yeah.
feel terrible for the kids, and they were such a good group of kids that really did anything and everything just to be a great football team that year.
Yeah, I remember that well. Left me with a sick feeling as well. As big fan of your program, even was back then before I knew you guys. And yeah, that didn't set good. My favorite memory, I don't know. That's a tough one. I mean, that 95 one in Ocean City was good, the playoff game. The 97 revenge game, after a loss a couple weeks earlier was
Yeah.
big. And probably one that doesn't seem so relevant, the 2000 game. Not the playoff game, the regular season game. You were huge underdogs and you won. And I'd say
Yeah.
convincing fashion that night.
Yeah, there's a couple. We had one a few years back, like 2018 or something, in the rain over in Ocean City.
Yeah, I
Our
remember.
kicker Sean Carey kicked the game-winning field goal. And there's been so many memories both sides of the ball. It's just a great high school rivalry, and it's just one of those things that if you're a fan of high school football, it's one of those on your to-do list every year. It's like one of those things. That's the game you want to go see. One of them.
Yeah, it's always a great game. I want to wish you good luck Friday afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck, for coming on the show.
Appreciate it.
I'm sure a lot of the old timers will enjoy this going the trip back down memory lane, 30 years and everything. Anyway, guys, this is Joe Carullo at Carullo's Corner at it'sallaboutsports.com and it'sallaboutsports.com. Chuck, you have a great night and good luck on Friday.
Thanks a lot, Joe. Appreciate it.
No problem, Joe.